Uh, Michelle, I'm just going to need to share my screen first 5 minutes.
Uh,
You can
okay.
start. Thank you.
Mm.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Our topic is about how the role that extracurricular activities play for a student's profile, and I'm joined today by Machelle Allman from the University of Washington. I'll begin the webinar by introducing Education USA Pakistan. I'm going to share my screen. I hope that everybody can see this now. Okay, I think you should be able to see it. So, Education USA Pakistan is called USEFP. It's known as the US Education Foundation in Pakistan, and we provide advising services in Karachi, Lahore, and Islamabad, where our advising centers are located to facilitate and help you with pursuing your graduate or undergrad education in the US. Our flagship program is the Fulbright program, and I'm a Fulbright alumni myself. I did my Fulbright Master's at the George Washington University in International Development Studies, and I graduated last year in 2025. So, what is the Fulbright program? The Fulbright program supports Pakistani students in pursuing their graduate education in the US, whether it's a master's or a PhD program. The Fulbright program is present all across the world. The largest number of students selected each year are from Pakistan, and the scholarship not only supports tuition fee but it also supports students with living costs, accommodation, food, transportation, books, and even return ticket. Okay, so what is Education USA? So Education USA is present everywhere that there's a US embassy. We are part of the US Department of State, and we provide you with accurate, current, and comprehensive information. We also have resources and guidance on how to find a best fit university, and we also help you prepare for standardized tests like the SAT, TOEFL, and GRE GMAT. So what all services do we provide? We will provide one-on-one advising. You can come to either our advising center in Karachi or Islamabad, or you can schedule a virtual one-on-one advising call with us. We provide free in-house and virtual sessions like the one we're having today. You can also access our resource library. We have books on tests and also about American culture and what it is like to study in the US. And you can feel free to browse through our books, read them whenever you visit our advising center. So in addition to advising center, we also have Lincoln Corners. We have about 5 Lincoln Corners in Punjab, and they're also present in Balochistan, Sindh, and KPK. And in Lahore, the Lincoln Corner is located in Qaid-e-Azam Library. We have one in Sargodha, Faisalabad, Multan, and Bihari. And the Lincoln Corners serve as American spaces in Pakistan. This They have a library, a resource center that you can pretty much visit during the daytime hours, either from like 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And they're completely free of cost to visit. So what you can do is that you can register for our free advising services if you go to educationusa.pk/register. You'll be able to receive weekly updates on all of our upcoming events, both in person and virtual. And we're trying to have more in-person events at the Lahore office where we're located inside FC College. If you have a query, just drop us an email at lahore@educationusa.org. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, X, and Instagram at EducationUSA Pakistan. All our webinar recordings are posted on our YouTube page, so this one will be as well within this week, I believe. Also follow the Lahore consulate, like the US consulate in Lahore. We do sometimes have events with them. We host events with them, or we invite speakers from the consulate to speak at our events. You can follow them on Instagram, X, and Facebook. And if you need any updated information on the visa, how to apply for a visa, when to schedule a visa appointment for the US, go to usembassy.gov. And that's pretty much it from me. I'll stop sharing my screen now. Over to you, Michelle.
Great, thank you. It does look like we already have a question, and it's for you. Is there a Lincoln Corner working in Vihari as well?
Yes, it is. Mhm.
Okay, great. And then I thought I saw someone had their hand raised. You can put your question in the chat or in the Q&A box if you like. Um, Well, thank you for that introduction to Education USA. I'm always pleased to partner with the organization. You all do such a good job of sharing information to students interested in studying in the United States. My name is Machelle Allman, and I work for the University of Washington. I work on the Bothell campus, which is just north of Seattle on the west coast of the United States. I am going to share my screen if I can. Let me find that so that we can get started. It'll be just a second. And so for this presentation, I have some slides for you. Certainly, if you have questions as we go, then we can answer those as we go, or we'll also have some time in the end to do a Q&A session. So let me just sign back in. It looks like I've already clicked out of my presentation, unfortunately. So let me pull that back up. Just a moment. Okay, here we are. So today we are talking about extracurricular activities in U.S. college applications. Much of this information is also true for scholarships. Because when we look at particularly selective universities, universities who that are very competitive, we see applications from many, many very academically talented students. And so part of what we are interested in looking at is learning more about the students, how they will succeed in our campus communities, and what makes them different. A college application is an opportunity for us to get to know you. And so, extracurricular activities or activities that you're doing outside of class can really help us to learn more about you and help us to make these admissions decisions. So, what this can help us to do is to learn more about your interests beyond your classroom. So it could be that you're interested in athletics, that's something that you're interested in doing. You could be a very talented musician. There may be something more beyond what you're doing in the classroom that we would like to learn about. So there's some very specific things that we look for when we're looking for extracurricular activities. If you've had an activity that allows you to have some leadership skills. So again, to go back to athletics, perhaps you've been able to be captain of the team and lead your team. Perhaps you're in a club in your school and you have a leadership position. That helps us that tells us more about you and what you are able to do. It also shows your commitment and your passion about something. It shows that you can manage your time well. In college, when you're taking classes, working on your homework, it can be so busy. And so, a student who already knows how to manage their time is going to be a successful student. And then what we call a well-rounded experience, meaning that you have things that you can do again outside of the classroom. And we'll talk a little bit more about why that's important later. Okay, I am seeing some questions. Let me go to those. Uh, Let's see, specific admission and scholarship information for PhD and IT. We're talking about extracurriculars today. I would encourage you to talk to your EduSA advisor about that. The DS 160, again, not on this topic. Okay, scholarship for masters. Okay, here's one. In school activities and projects versus those performed outside of school, does one take precedence over the other? I actually have a slide about that, so we'll talk about that later. DS 160, again, outside of the scope of this presentation, I'm afraid, so I would encourage you to talk to your EduSA advisor about that. Okay. So what are the types of extracurricular activities? Sports teams, academic clubs like the business club, economics club, a hackathon for IT, engaging in volunteer work, which could be in your community, it could be your school, participation in arts programs. These are just some examples of extracurricular activities. So, extracurriculars outside of school. So, this goes to this question. We consider all activities, and neither one of them takes precedence over the other. You can do activities in school, you can do activities outside of school. Some things that students may not even think of are if you have significant family responsibilities. So that can be something that shows us quite a bit about you, where your values are. If you have significant family responsibilities, it can again show us that you can manage your time well. There may be religious activities that you're involved with. Also, work for pay, or if you're working at your family shop, it shows that you have real life, real world job experience. So, all of these things can be really valuable to put on an application for admission or a scholarship application. So these are sometimes things that students don't think about. Sometimes students will leave the extracurriculars blank because they're not in a school club. All of these types of extracurriculars can count. And when you're describing these, it's really helpful for us to tell us a little bit about that. So if you have a responsibility to care for younger siblings, for example, what are the types of things that you do? How often is it? Are you preparing meals for your siblings? You know, what kinds of details can you tell us about what that looks like? Okay. So a question about how do you prove that you did those activities? Typically, we are not looking for a certificate or any type of a proof. We will believe you when you put it on your application. So we will trust that students are completing their applications correctly and truthfully. And so if you say, back when I was in school or when I was younger, I was captain of my cricket team for 5 years, we will generally take that to be true. So I talked a little bit about leadership. And so the things that we're looking for in leadership is a student who is able to communicate well. For example, if you have a leadership position, then perhaps you have to organize the meeting time and let everyone in the group know about when this meeting is happening. So these types of skills that you can be working on as a student before you go to college or university, these are valuable skills, and it shows us that you can also do these things when you come to our campus. So if you have learned already how to communicate well within your school club, then when you have a group project in class on our campus, then you already know how to communicate well there. Another thing is that you can develop your academic skills through your extracurriculars as well. So if you were interested in economics, for example, and you do something extra, something beyond an economics club, or you work on an economics project with a teacher in your school, these types of things show us that you are dedicated to that field and that you're interested in learning more about that field. So your extracurriculars can really accentuate the work that you're doing in class and help you expand that more. So I see this often with the arts, for example. Someone may be applying for admission and they're interested in the arts in a major, and I can see that already they are performing on their own. They are teaching lessons for younger students in their instrument. It shows that they are dedicated to that as their field and their knowledge. So those are interesting things for us to see on the application. Uh, and then extracurriculars and personal growth. Some extracurriculars can be really great stress relievers, like athletics, or if you are a writer and you like to write and it helps get your thoughts out. Um, and then it helps in a sense of community and belonging. I think people who have been involved with a team or a group understand that sense of belonging. And those are the types of things that we're looking to accentuate on our campus as well. So we want our student life to be a place where students feel like they belong. And so being able to take your experiences that you've had already and then apply it to the college campus, it helps to be able to meet people, to make new friends. One of the easiest ways to meet people on a college campus when you're new is to join a group. And so if you have experienced that with that, it makes it easier. All right, let's go back to some questions. Okay. So, for the Fulbright question, again, I think that's a question for your EduSA advisor. She should be able to help with that for finance majors. How much percent of the extracurricular activities impart in our application? I'll go back and say academics are first. It's always the academics. We're looking for strong curriculum that you've done in your classwork with strong grades. And then after that, the extracurriculars can make a difference. Again, it could be for a scholarship possibility. It could be if there's a capacity issue, for example. So at University of Washington Bothell, we do have a wait list. So we have more applications than we have seats. So we put students on a wait list if we feel like we may be having too many students. And so if you have strong, deep extracurricular activities, then that may be something that moves you from the wait list to admitted. So there's not really a percentage, but focus on the academics first, and then the extracurriculars are that. They are extra and they can help make a difference. Do the activities make the application strong for a scholarship? Yes, and particularly if that activity relates to the scholarship. So, for example, there are often scholarships for women in STEM, so women in science and technology fields. So, if your extracurriculars relate to a science or technology field, then that is an activity that can make your application stronger for that scholarship. CV for USA for master's or PhD. Again, I think that's a little bit beyond the scope for activities. Okay. So here's a good question. I don't have a higher GPA, so is it possible to do some extracurricular activities that will land me a scholarship? That's a difficult one. So some institutions will have a GPA requirement, and if you don't meet that, then unfortunately there are no activities that's going to make a difference. But again, if you're interested in a particular major, any type of activity related to that major can help to make your application stronger. So, if you are interested in global health, for example, and you want to do a global health major, if you have experience volunteering in a local neighborhood health clinic, that can help your application. Okay, let's see. Two questions that are similar. If you're already graduated, not in school, and you are currently working, what kinds of activities can you share to fill this gap? Think about activities that you do in your personal life. Maybe you are a rock climber in your free time, and so you could put that. If there are special organizations or projects within your work, that could potentially be helpful. So if you are in a leadership group, for example, in your work, that could be considered like an extracurricular activity. So think deeply about what types of things that you have done, if there's been a special project that you've done at work, or maybe you're in IT, for example, and you have your own personal coding project that you do on your own. Those types of things could be extracurricular activities. What kind of extracurricular activities makes a profile strong? An extracurricular activity that shows a deep and long commitment. So it could be arts, it could be athletics. It doesn't matter really what it is because it's based on you. We want to know what your interests are. But the thing that can help most is that you've had more than just a passing involvement. Ideally, it's over time, and that you've had deep involvement, that you have a leadership position, or you have trained others to be able to do this activity. Okay, I will uh, go ahead and leave some of these questions for a little bit later. We'll go on through the presentation. I will say thank you so much for your engagement. These questions are fantastic, and I appreciate that you are following along. Okay, so balancing academics and extracurriculars. We talked a little bit about this already. Academics always come first. So prioritizing your commitments. So making sure that you do the most important things first and then do the priorities for other things along the way. Creating a schedule, you all know about that, how to keep track of your time. Setting realistic goals. It may not be realistic for you to do your volunteer activity every day. It may not be realistic for you to do it every week, but if you have a set time and a realistic goal, perhaps you can do that activity once a month. And then regular reflection. You want to be intentional about your activities and you want to be thinking about, is there a way that I can make this better for myself? Is there a way that I can make this better for my organization? Is there an opportunity for me to take a leadership position? So when you join an activity and you're doing something, make sure that you have some intentions about it and to think about your goal and think about what was your goal and are you reaching your goal, and then thinking about your prioritization. Does this activity really make you excited and you're learning a lot, so you want to make it a higher priority? Maybe that is the case. Okay, so here I have some case studies, and this may be helpful for you to see, particularly in terms of types of activities or what these might look like. So we have student A, who's an athlete, but the student also has a leadership role within the team. And then he also does some community volunteer work. And so that volunteer work plus the athletics shows us that this is a person who's very good at teamwork. And because he's done this over time, again, not just once or twice, but has been doing this for a long time, it shows commitment to these activities. So this is a student with a successful profile. Student B was president of the debate club. Again, leadership and debate shows really good critical thinking plus public speaking skills. So we know that this person, if they're going to be asked to do a presentation in class, they have the skills, they're going to be able to do that. This student also did an internship, and that showed the real world experience. So for those who were saying, I'm already graduated, I'm in the professional world, I'm already working, that does show that you have a real world experience. You know how to do a job, you know how to show up on time, you know how to work with your supervisor, all valuable skills. Okay, so student C is a musician. And so this person does community service projects and shows her dedication to social causes through art. So this is a student who does music song times for young children. So in the neighborhood toddler group, she does song time. And so she's working with community groups using her talent as a musician to work with young children. So this is someone whose extracurricular activity matches with their skills and interests and what they want to do on campus. So that shows us more about what that student is like and what they're good at, to be honest. And so this is also a successful profile. Okay, and I did see a question about how to choose extracurricular activities. Is one better than another? How do I choose? Uh, Really, it depends on your personal interest. It doesn't make much sense to do an activity if you don't particularly like it. You won't get the personal growth from it. It's not going to be beneficial to you. So choose an activity that matches with your interest. If possible, find one that can enhance the academic experience. We talked about the student with the debate club, the public speaking skills, the developing an argument. These are all skills that are valuable in the American classroom. So this is an example of enhancing the academic experience. Demonstrating commitment and consistency. One of the biggest mistakes that I see students make, and this is both American and international students, is doing lots and lots and lots of activities, but only for a short time. So they'll list, 1 time volunteering for a marathon, and then 2 months of this club, and 2 weeks of this athletic event. It's just lots and lots of activities, but for such a short time, it doesn't show any commitment and it doesn't show consistency. So when we're looking at the extracurricular activities, we do look at how long have you done it? Does it match with what you want to do academically? Does it tell us more about you, what motivates you, what you're interested in? And does it show that you can keep your commitments? Can you do something over time? So I would much rather see someone with 2 activities that they show leadership, They show that they've been doing it for a long time. They've developed their skills, so they've been a beginner at something and now they are more of an expert. I would rather see those two activities than a long list of activities that are for every topic. It's not consistent and it's just for a short time. Extracurriculars also help you network and build relationships. So you may be meeting new people. You may be meeting people from different areas in your country or internationally. I know that there are some students who participate in Model United Nations, for example. And so it helps you in your personal growth in that you're meeting new people and learning how to work with different people. And it can also showcase any unique talents that you have. If you are a talented musician or athlete or coder or educator, that you have a specialty with working with young children, it can really help to showcase those things about you. Again, to go back to the very, very beginning, the admissions application is an opportunity for us to get to know you. What are you like? What are you interested in? How can we as a campus educate you? And then how will you fit into our campus community? So here is kind of a final statement here. Um, they're essential for distinguishing yourself in the college application process. We read so many applications, and so an extracurricular activity that can help us remember you to say, oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting person. That helps you. It showcases your unique strengths, interests, and contributions, illustrating your potential to enrich the campus community. As I mentioned before, the United States higher education system is different from many others in that they tend to be residential. There are people living on the campus community. We do lots of activities on the campus. And so we're looking to build a community that is vibrant and is exciting and supports the academic endeavors of our students. So let's go back to some more questions. Thank you for these. Okay, this is a good one. So, suppose students don't have enough extracurricular activities now. What should a student do to win scholarship? Well, it depends on the timing. So if you are applying now and maybe there's a year-long process, you could begin an activity now. And then if there is an opportunity, you could update your application or contact your admissions counselor and say, I didn't have this at time of application, but I've been involved with this research project for 5 months now. So you might be able to update your application and indicate your new activity that you've done. Elaborate more on how we mention extracurriculars outside of school, like taking care of family and elderly. If someone has significant responsibility, how can they mention that? So for undergraduates, on the Common application, which is an application that is used from many universities, there is a place where you can just check a box. And so it will ask you for activities. Do you have significant family responsibilities? It will also ask something like, for example, if you have a very long commute to school. So if you have to commute over an hour each day to get to school and back, that's going to impact your time that you have available to do activities. So you can mark that on the Common application. Another place that you can do it is that many applications will have an activities section of the application, and it will ask you, please list your activities, and then you can put them there. And so you would put significant family responsibilities in that activities section. It may seem a little strange because it might ask for something like club name, dates, something like that. Just go ahead and put in your family responsibility. That's absolutely okay. The other place you can do it is in your personal essay. So if it's appropriate, if the essay is something like, tell us about you, tell us what's important to you, then you can put in your essay or your personal statement, I have significant family responsibilities, and talk a little bit about that, what you have learned, what skills you have developed through that. So there's actually many places that you could put that in. Which classes grades matter more? Generally, we're looking at cumulative, so we're looking at all of the grades, but the when we're looking at a transcript, the way that that's calculated, if a class has more credit, if it's for a longer period of time, so example, if you have a class that's 1 year long, that's going to count more than a class that you have for only a short term. Also, if you're being considered for a competitive major, it could be that the classes that you've taken already related to that major may count more. So if you're interested in computer science, for example, at a particular school, if you have already had computer science and advanced math, then those classes could count more. But generally, we're looking, particularly at the undergraduate level, we're looking for all of the classes. I have done projects, but they haven't been successful in the end. What about those? Should I add them as well? If you feel like you could talk about what you've learned, I would say yes, go ahead, particularly for that essay. If you, in a personal statement, and it's asking you to talk about yourself, you could talk about, I started this project and it didn't go well. It wasn't successful, but here's what I learned in that failure. Here's what I learned. That can be really powerful. Is it okay to stick to extracurriculars specific to our interest, or must we try a broad range? I think that, again, the important thing is commitment. And so if you have, let's say, 3 activities that are over a broad range, but you've done them for a long time, that's actually a great thing. So if you play the violin and you run marathons and you're in the economic club and you've done those all for 2 years, that's great because it shows your commitment to those activities. But at the same time, a student who has 3 activities in the same area has a strong profile. So if someone has done hackathons and coding contests, they're in their computer science club, and they have created a small app for the App Store, those are 3 activities in the same area, but they could show leadership, they could show commitment to the activity, and deep skills building. So I think both of those situations can be good, but the thing to watch out for, again, is if you've got a broad range of activities, just a long list of every possible thing, but for a short amount of time, that's not helpful. Okay, so a fundraiser. This is great. I've raised a lot of money for education for underprivileged households, cancer patients, widows, and other disadvantaged classes. How can it help me in public policy? Again, on the application, definitely put that success on the application, and tell us all of those details. If you just put fundraising, it doesn't tell us as much. So if you can explain how long it took, if it's appropriate for the essay, you may want to talk about it there. I think that's a fantastic thing, and congratulations. Okay. How is the depth of an experience compared to breadth of activities? Should students focus on a few activities and go deep rather than going wide? They may want to expand their breadth by doing many activities. Sure, absolutely. But I've mentioned before, the depth is more important to us. So maybe you have 2 activities that you do long time that you go deep, and then each month you try a new activity, so that you have both. You have some deep activities and then some shorter term exploratory activities where you're trying new things. That can be helpful too. But I would not substitute lots of activities for deep activities. If you don't have anything that you've done for a long time, that's not as beneficial. What is meant by curricular activities? What does it include? Some examples. So curricular activities relates to curriculum. Those are classes. So when we talk about your curriculum, it's the classes that you take in school. So for an undergrad applicant, someone who's applying for an undergraduate program, those are the classes that you take in high school. Extracurricular means outside of class. So what are things that you are doing outside of class that can tell us more about you? So volunteering in a community group, participating in your local concert band, running a marathon on your own. Those are extracurricular activities because they're not happening in class. What are the extracurricular activities does Ivy League look for in applicants? Again, it's the same thing. It's for all universities. They're looking for activities that relate to you and your interest. So there is no one particular activity to say all applicants must have membership in an economics club. That just doesn't exist. It's learning about you. What is your major? What is your intended major? What are you interested in? Those are the things that are important. Mhm. Um, let's see. If we have a strong GPA, but the extracurricular is beyond our major, for example, the major is cardiology and we are a sales and marketing manager. So is that working for us to make the application strong? Absolutely. Yeah. So an extracurricular activity can match with what you're doing, or it might not, but be able to think about what skills you've learned for your extracurricular that might be also a skill for your major. And then you might want to talk about that in your essay. Uh, it it might match the major, it might not. That's okay. Let's see. Examples of leadership. So this is a good question. What are some examples of leadership? So if you're already graduated and you're in the work world, and maybe you've gotten a promotion from a team member to a team leader, that's an example of leadership. Or maybe even if you haven't gotten a job promotion, but maybe in your work you were asked to lead a particular project. That's an example of leadership. Um, so, with extracurricular activities, leadership could be a sports team captain. It could be a leadership position in a club. So, treasurer, vice president, president of a club. Those are types of things that can be leadership. In a symphony orchestra, you have first chair or section leaders in an orchestra. That's an example of leadership. So it can take many different forms. Is being part of any society considered an extracurricular activity? It can be. It depends on what you're doing. So if being part of a society means that you are going to meetings, you're communicating, you're doing activities, then yes. But if it's a society that it's like a title, like an honor society, just that shows that you are got a certain GPA, but you don't actually do anything as part of that, that's not as valuable. Okay, here's a good question. So, extracurricular activities done in secondary school when that was a long time ago. uh, it might. So, let's say that you were a member of the economics club back in high school. you graduated, you got a job in economics, and now you are interested in getting a master's degree in economics. Sure, absolutely, you can put that because it relates to your pathway. It shows how you followed that path over time. But if you are going for an advanced degree and your secondary school activities were a long time ago, it might be better to focus on things that are more recent. Like I mentioned, if you have done a particular project with your job, or if you have done community work as an adult, then those would be more valuable. And again, unless it can show your pathway of your skills development and your interest development over time. I am a fitness athlete and training my youngers for 1.5 years. How does it help me improve my profile? Definitely. That's an extracurricular activity that you can put on your application. Think about what that shows about you. It shows you can show up on time because you have to meet your students. It shows that you can get along with people. And it shows that you are committed enough to that interest to hold classes for younger people and bring more people into your sport. So I think it's great. How does university verify the activity? As I mentioned before, uh, we don't really, to be honest. We are not looking for certificates. We're not looking for videos. If you tell us on the application, then that is considered to be the activity. So, for the most part, when you put on the application any information, at the very end, you're signing that application. And when you sign it, there's usually a statement that says, I'm verifying that all of this is true. So, if there's anything about your application that is discovered later to not be true, your admission can be taken away. So, if you said, yeah, I took these classes, we get your transcript and we find out you did not take those classes, then the university can say, we're going to take away your admission. So it makes sense to be completely truthful on your application because you're signing, but generally we are not verifying the activity. The exception would be, for example, for an athletic scholarship. If you are applying for a university and you're hoping to get an athletic scholarship, then absolutely the coaches are going to want to verify your capability. Same thing potentially for music, those types of things where you might have a position at the university. But you're going to list your activities on the application and then sign that the application is true. After A level, how much research publication matters for winning a bachelor's scholarship? Bachelors are not expected to do a lot of publication yet. Typically, that's going to be at the graduate level. So, any research publication that you've done, I think, would be really valuable to put on your activities for a potential bachelor's degree or scholarship. Okay, let's see. We've got about 12 minutes left. These questions are so amazing. I have another question about the Fulbright scholarship. That's not my area of expertise, unfortunately, so I think that will be a question for your EducationUSA advisor. Let's see. Okay, so I've got some more questions that relate again to what kinds of extracurricular activities are valuable, uh, what is important for master's and PhD. So I'll just go back to what I've said before. The type of activity should relate to you. It should relate to your interests. It should be over time if possible. It should be related to leadership if possible. But beyond that, it really matters to you. Extracurriculars can be important for master's or PhD. Again, academics are first. And if you've been in the work world for a long time, you may not have as many things that younger students might have, like clubs and things like that. But think about activities that you do in your work life that relate to the degree that you're interested in. And that can be an important part of your personal statement, your essay. So I've always been interested in global health, let's say, and I volunteer at a local health clinic, and now I would like to get my PhD in global health. That's the type of activity that strengthens your application profile because you're already working in that field. So it's something that you're showing your interest and your dedication to that field. Here's a good question. For an assistantship, a TA, a GA, an RA, what kind of extracurricular activities does a professor look for in an applicant? If particularly for the teaching assistantships, if you have any experience in teaching already, that's going to be valuable. If you are looking for a research assistant position, if you already have some research background, that's going to be valuable. So if you have experience doing those types of things, that would be very important to point out on your application, because then a professor could say, oh, wow, this person could come in and perform the duties of these jobs really well, and they have experience with that. Here's another question. Does documenting the activity journey on social media be recognized? For example, recording marathon preparation on Instagram or community service on LinkedIn? That could be helpful. And it's something that if you wanted to, you could put your social links on the application. I would say, from my experience in looking at undergraduate admissions, we would not have the time, unfortunately, to look at those. We have so many applications that we're reading. We're just looking at the application itself, and unfortunately, we would not have the time to be able to go to socials. But there may be smaller schools that have fewer applications that would be interested in seeing those. A scholarship committee, for example, who are looking for the top students, and so they have fewer scholarship applications to read. They may look at socials. So I think that situation really depends quite a bit. Okay, I also saw, okay, great. So you may have seen in the chat already the email for all Fulbright related questions. So thank you for submitting those and surfacing those, so we know that there are some questions about that Fulbright. And so your advisor has put in that email for those Fulbright related questions. Okay, let's see. I think I've actually gotten through. Okay, actually got another question. That's great. What differentiates a selected candidate from a rejected one, assuming both have strong academics? That's a fantastic question, and I think it depends on institution. So if we're looking at the Ivies, for example, the Ivy League schools, Yale, Harvard, those types of things, if they have students who have a very similar academic profile, it could be the extracurriculars that make a difference. So if it's a music student and they have already written pieces of music, that student may be admitted because they have a stronger background in that major. To be honest, selective institutions are also building their campus community. So they may be looking at, if they have two students from with the same type of academic background, they may prioritize an international student because they're looking for more international students. They may prioritize a student from a different state in the United States. Because they don't have many people from that area. There could be a number of reasons as a school is building a class. So this is why we're talking about those extracurricular activities, is to show why you are special. And so to show why, if you have a similar academic background, that you have the skills, the leadership, the personal growth, that you should be admitted versus someone else. Mhm. Okay. Uh, Useful tips to carry out extracurricular activities. Again, it's time management. If you're studying your O levels, your A levels, and you've got exams, um, finding activities that fit within your schedule and doing those are going to be really important. And then I would say talk to other successful students. If you have friends who are successfully doing extracurricular activities, ask them, how do you manage it? How do you manage your time? Those can be helpful tips because that's the real life. That's the real world. Difficulty in trying to manage your studies and extracurriculars, and keeping realistic goals. So if you know that you can't meet for a particular activity every day, choose a better activity that fits with your time schedule better. Are low grades but strong extracurriculars considered for scholarships? Generally, no. The academics come first always. So we're going to be looking at the grades first and the academic capabilities, and then the extracurriculars are, again, just that, they're extra. It shows what is different about you. Strong academics but little to no activities, that's a better profile. So a profile at my institution, again, we do reach capacity. We do sometimes go to the wait list, sometimes we don't. A student with strong academics but fewer extra activities will be admitted before a student with low grades and more extracurricular activities. Academics are always first. Let's see. If a student feels the extracurricular profile is not very strong yet, we've talked about that before. If you haven't done a particular activity or you feel like that's a little bit weak, then start now. Find an activity that can provide you some leadership opportunities, an opportunity to show some deep work in your field, and then you can make some improvements before it's time to apply. Let's see. After A levels, how can we get to the USA for studies? This is actually a great transition because we have just 2 minutes left. So I want to turn it back over to EducationUSA. I will stop sharing to conclude our time together. I am so impressed with your questions, and thank you so much for being so engaged. Sometimes I do these webinars and I only get 5 or 6 questions, and I think I had a total of 53 listed on the chat. So thank you so much for your very strong engagement and your great questions. I hope this was helpful for you. Your advisor has, let's see, I just took it off share. Let me put this back on the screen with my information. So this is me, University of Washington Bothell. I'm Machelle Allman, and there's my email address. If there was a question about extracurricular activities, I'm happy
Sorry,
to
Michelle, we can't
help
see your
you.
screen. We're not able to see your screen.
There it is. Sorry about that. Thank you. Uh, so there's my email. If you have questions about extracurricular activities, I'm happy to respond to your email. And again, if you have questions about how to study in the United States, questions about Fulbright, please do ask your Education USA advisor. She did put in that email in the chat for you. And again, I'm just so impressed. I'm so impressed with you all as a group and with the questions that you've had. So, any final words from EduSA?
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you so much, Michelle, for taking out time for us. I'm glad that the webinar was very engaging for our students, and I think very, very informative because we had a lot of questions. We don't like. I think we do sort of writing the college essay or like the SOP workshop essays more, and I think that we've done like a webinar on extracurricular activities after like a long time, and that's why I wanted to like do this one because I think that it's not very much talked about. Of course, we do get questions from students, when we're advising them one on one that what should I do to build my profile? How can I make it stronger? What extracurricular should I do? But we've had like a webinar like this like in long time, and I think it was really needed because we had a lot of questions. Thank you so much
Hmm.
again for taking up the time, and I hope that we'll have you back again soon sometime. Have a great
Absolutely. I'd be happy to do
day.
it.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day and take care. Bye.
Bye bye, everyone. Thank you.